Folks, and welcome to the Vookcast, Australia's Nintendo podcast. My name's Oliver Brandt, and in this episode, I'm joined by Michael Goncalves.
Hey, team.
Angelo Valdivia.
Yo.
And Luke Henderson.
Hello there.
We've got a great episode lined up for you, all about some anniversary Game Boy games, a new place to buy Pokémon merch in Australia, Square Enix's future business plans, a change to Twitter sharing, and so much more. But first, let's check back in on a story from the last episode. So in the last episode, we talked about how there was a classification submitted for something called Nintendo World Championships NES Edition. Basically, immediately after we recorded that episode, it was officially announced. Yeah, it is called Nintendo World Championships NES Edition. It's a series of small speedrunning challenges across 13 NES games, where you basically just compete to get the best time on a leaderboard. There's no online play, but there is like couch co-op or couch competitive, I guess, multiplayer as well. So it costs $49.95 digitally and physically. There would be a physical edition just of the base game. But there's also a deluxe edition that comes with art cards and pins and a gold NES replica card. So how do we feel about this? It is very much a last year of a console kind of game, I feel.
I mean, just like the NES remix games were?
Exactly.
Except they came out like 2014 or something, which, you know, I guess was the last year of the Wii U.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not super interested in this. For me, I will be in Japan on the day that it launches. So I'll be getting the Japanese version, which instead of the gold replica card comes with the Nintendo Switch Online and Famicom controllers. So much easier way to get those.
If you're in the Nintendo store picking it up, remember, scan your My Nintendo membership QR code because you earn points.
Good to know.
Isn't the Japanese version only available to purchase through the Japanese store, the online store?
No, they'll have it at retailers as well.
Retailers?
Select retailers, yeah.
Sorry, I thought it was only available through the store.
It's kind of a rip that everyone else gets the gold cartridge and the Japanese region gets the stick controllers.
The controllers that they can already buy at any time. Yeah.
Yeah, but it comes with the collection.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, they could do the same with the NES controllers. Yeah, they won't, obviously, because they've decided to go with the gold replica card instead. Anyway, onto the actual game itself.
I mean, I think it looks. I don't know. I'm always down for a cool, fun remix of a bunch of games and things, like added challenges. Like multiplayer components. I'm assuming, yeah, it's basically multiplayer versions of classic like single player games. Like, I'm down for that.
Yeah, I mean,
the only thing that
again, it
annoys me. Sorry,
I was gonna say it's basically just like a speed running focused, NES remix without any of the NES remix parts.
Yeah, and I think that's the downside, right? Is that like a lot of people have been clamoring for another NES remix, like maybe an SNES remix. But to get this, I mean, I still think it's kind of fun. It's probably more fun for people our age than it is for children or teenagers, but we'll see.
Yeah, the only thing that annoys me is
how many. Oh my god! I don't know if there's like a greater latency today. This is wild. You go, please finish your thought.
I should say the only thing that annoys me is that they're not including the actual base games. You can't just play Super Mario Brothers or Zelda or Ice Climbers or whatever. It's just you get these 15, 30-second chunks of a game and that's it. And I get why, but at the same time, it's like, maybe if somebody completes all the Zelda game challenges, they can unlock the Zelda. Not that we already don't have it on the Switch, but it would just be like a nice little They don't need to do it, but it'd be a nice thing for them to do.
I mean, that would notably be like a way for people who aren't subscribed to Nintendo Switch Online to play those games as well. But I guess that's kind of half the reason that it's not like that. Yeah, Michael, tell us what you've been aiming to say this entire time.
Just blanking out. Yeah,
Oh,
sorry, I was gonna
no.
say like, yeah. Yes, I agree. I can't imagine how many people this actually appeals to. Like, this is such a niche thing, like an incredibly niche thing, and in an already incredibly niche community. But like, I'll still get it. Like, this is still enjoyable to me, but like, I don't think it's gonna be a big seller in any capacity.
No, I think this is more for like the streamer slash unboxing crowd, right? It's just a cool little thing to have in your shelf, just like any other sort of collector's edition type thing, just to
Mm.
have all these little knickknacks and collector's pins, etc., etc.
It's
And
one of
as
those
much as
things where
I'm-
like it would it would already be like sold out, like if it was like super popular. But I
Yeah,
think I'm
right.
pretty sure it's still available like at EB Games. I think it's exclusive to EB if I'm incorrect. You only
no,
order
multiple
so-
retailers.
the
deluxe
big
set
edition.
is-
Yeah, sorry, the deluxe
It's
set. I
Oh,
mean.
exclusive to
yeah.
EB, yeah. And it is
Um,
very much still available, yeah.
Yeah, I just.
I
don't
know
think
in
it's gonna
Europe they've had
light
some
the world on
issues
fire.
getting stock on the deluxe or whatever they're calling it. The one thing I think is funny is we said it last time, but the whole NES edition subtag means that they're clearly planning on doing more of these things, which is interesting. But I personally think this would be something like if they did this as like an iOS or Android game, like basically just touchscreen controls at the bottom of your phone, and then the top half was your game screen. I think this would be the sort of thing that the phone community would love, because if these games are 15, 30-second bursts, it would do really well there. But I don't know.
Yeah,
I
you can't
don't.
charge $50 for a mobile game, and you can for a Switch game.
You can if you're Square Enix.
I mean, that's true.
I would love to see a Nintendo World Championship edition round. Sorry, Nintendo World Championship round of people trying to do speed runs of Super Mario Brothers on mobile and just completely messing it up because no one can play with touch controls. I would love to see that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've ordered it because I'm a shill, and I want that gold cart to go next to my Fire Emblem clear cart that I got like 2 years ago. But I honestly just don't think anyone really wants this. I mean, we're all saying, yeah, we'll probably get it or we'll play it, but it's like nobody was chomping at the bit. Nobody was saying, hey, give us, 58 pieces of a truncated. And the thing is, there's only 150 challenges or something. It's in the press release somewhere. There's only like 100, 155 challenges. So it's not even like 500 different challenges across the 13 games. You're basically getting 10 challenges a game, which is not really a lot of game. And unless you really want to get on that leaderboard, you're probably not going to stick around and play this one too much.
See, for me, I will probably play it on the 10-hour trip back from Japan. Because
that's if you can understand the Japanese that they're all going to be in.
Oh no,
I mean-
it is multi-language. They did confirm.
What
that,
are the chances that you're going to be playing this or your Steam Deck that you're going to pick up in Japan? Because I will bet it will be the Steam Deck you're playing on the plane on the way back, and not this.
You're probably right. But yeah, I mean, it's a fun little thing. But as I said, it does very much feel like a last year of a console thing, which it is. So
Yeah.
This strikes me as something that someone pitched back when they had that round of the Nintendo World Championships, or was it like 4 or 5 years ago or something? And then they made it in
2019,
and then they made it in 6 months, and then classic Nintendo just had it on the shelf for a few years and was like, oh yeah, we got to get this thing out.
yeah, I mean,
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. All right, moving on to our next thing. There's a few new games on Nintendo Switch Online, which seems to be coming at quite a decent cadence lately. We've gotten one like every month for a little while now. So to celebrate the 35th anniversary of the original Game Boy, Nintendo put 3 games from 1989, which is when the Game Boy came out, onto Nintendo Switch Online. So the games are the original Super Mario Land, which weirdly was not there.
Sorry, I'm playing the trailer and it just popped up and it said this it has the ratings for Australia on it. It said M for horror themes, and I'm like, out of Mario Alleyway and Baseball, which game has horror themes in it?
They just the rating is for the app as a whole. So any
No, I know that, but it just made me chuckle.
yeah. So yeah, it has the original Super Mario Land, which was not there to begin with for some reason. Alleyway, which is like a brick breaker kind of game, and baseball. Japan also got the Frog for Whom the Bell Tolls. I've spelled whom, which would have been nice to get for us, but is not translated and probably never will be. So unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, it's more Game Boy games. I don't think anybody has any particularly strong thoughts about these games in particular. Except
Super Mario Land is a banger. It's a great Mario game on the Game Boy.
I didn't even realize it wasn't on the service. Like, that's
Yeah, I know,
wild
right?
to me.
Yeah, that's crazy. I got a
Yeah.
fun little
Well,
story
I-
for you regarding that game. I used to have a Game Gear way back in the day. For some reason, my parents got me a Game Gear, which was expensive AF, and not just to buy, but also just to run because it ate so many batteries. And then for my birthday or Christmas or something like that, like I really wanted Super Mario Land as well because I had a Game Boy as well. And one day I woke up and I didn't have a Game Gear anymore, and I had Super Mario Land. It's because my dad sold my Game Gear, and I'm like, okay. Like I wasn't even sad about it. I was like, oh, okay.
I mean, that's the correct reaction, quite frankly.
Yeah, I know, right?
I had to check with Ollie, but with Mario Land there now, that's all the mainline Mario games on Switch Online. For all the platforms that it has, it's all the Mario.
Well, the platforming ones at least. There's
Yeah.
other Mario games that don't count.
I guess Nintendo finally got the licenses for all of their own games sorted out.
No, I mean I think they just timed it well for the end of the generation. But yeah, I mean, all of these are good games. And I've seen a lot of people on Twitter being like, "Wow, Alleyway is kind of dope," and it is. Yeah, it's great.
I
I've also
love
seen a
these
lot
types of games. They're so good.
Yeah. I've also seen a lot of people like discovering sections of the Nintendo Switch Online emulator app that you wouldn't normally see because Super Mario Land is very easy to crash and break. Which isn't a problem with the emulation. It is a very buggy game, just in general. People have discovered there's actual like crash handling in those apps, and people haven't really seen that before because the rest of the games will either crash the app entirely or
If you wanted proof
Oh,
that these
gosh.
were just ROMs in an emulator, there you go.
Yeah.
They're not like
I mean, the Game Boy
custom
emulator is very,
rebuilt.
very good.
Yeah.
I think we should all just remind ourselves that Nintendo should absolutely be commended for being the only forward-thinking company that frequently celebrates 35th anniversaries.
Sure.
That is
Such
true.
such a nothing year, and that's coming from a 35-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't know. They do like their fives, even if like it hasn't, like it's not a thing, right? Like if it
They,
was
don't- they
four
didn't
years,
celebrate the
like,
30th anniversary of anything,
They
except
like
maybe
their
Mario.
selective fives
It's so funny.
because we never got anything for Donkey Kong.
Or Metroid.
I mean, it's also worth noting that like this anniversary that they're celebrating was like 2 months ago. Like it wasn't when these games released.
Yeah,
They
right,
just
yeah.
released. It's like, oh yeah, just this year ish.
The physical media communities also do the same thing. Anytime there's any type of reason to release a new physical media version of a movie, the 27th anniversary or whatever, they'll do it.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, why not celebrate the 35th anniversary of the Game Boy? Yeah, silly. Alrighty. So this is something that a lot of people are actually very excited about. So a decade after opening the first online Pokemon Center store in the US, it's been announced that Australia will finally be getting an online Pokemon Center store. So Pokemon Center Online sells exclusive merchandise, which is usually stuff that would typically only be found in Japan in physical Pokemon Center stores. But recently, in the past couple of years, we're starting to see regional exclusive merchandise. So there's a summer collection that's available in the US right now, which has illustrations from James Turner, who was the art director for Pokemon Sword and Shield, and now is making the Plucky Squire with a team up in Queensland. Good stuff. Yeah, so Pokemon Center Online launched in the US in 2014, and then in Canada in 2020, and the UK in 2021. So yeah, we're finally getting one. It will ship to the entirety of Australia, and I think New Zealand as well. So yeah. Basically anybody who likes like Pokemon plushies should be like super excited about this, because there's so
And
many
super
of them.
concerned.
Yeah, I mean concerned as well. It will drain your wallets. But yeah, it's good that we're finally getting one. Often Australia kind of gets left out in things like this. So
This is
yeah,
the first I'm hearing of this story at all, and I'm just seeing the pink and blue Pikachu cap, and I really want it.
100%.
I
That's also the thing
really
that
want
caught
that
my
hat.
eye. It looks sick.
It's beautiful. I love it so much. It's so
Yeah.
like garishly 90s. I love it.
What's funny is when that the James Turner art, the summer, what are they calling it, summer something or other, when that was announced, I shared that with the Vookcast guys, and I'm like, yeah, we'll probably get this in like November, like 2 pieces through the My Nintendo store, like as a joke, and then like a week later, like, by the way, you guys are getting a Pokemon Center. I'm like, oh, okay. So very good news.
But yeah, I mean, like, there's been so much stuff that like it ultimately was exclusive to Pokemon Center in the US or Japan or whatever, and then like we got like maybe 1 or 2 of those things at like EB, or randomly I saw one a couple years ago, just like Kmart had licensed one particular plushie that was Pokemon Center exclusive, and I don't know why. But yeah, so now we're gonna get all of those.
The only thing to be concerned on is the distribution of it all. So Nintendo, when they do their stuff from Tokyo, which they've done, they did like 2 things in the past week, a bunch of stuff from Nintendo Tokyo. When they do that, they ship it from the Melbourne warehouse. Disney, when they opened up a Shop Disney website for Australia, they opened it up via Singapore. So everything has to come via Singapore. So you have to pay insane amounts of shipping for it. We obviously don't know where the distribution center for this is going to be. I suspect likely Japan, because we're pretty close to Japan. So it may be that we get access to things, but the shipping may be more expensive than you're thinking. So just something to be aware of. We don't know that yet. So just prepare for the worst.
Sorry, I was just having a good laugh at myself because I just saw the design of the Ditto hat, and I've just linked you guys in the Discord chat that we have going on. It is the stupidest looking hat.
That's beautiful.
Oh, I love it.
That's 2 hats that you're on board with now.
Oh, I'm probably not gonna get almost said a different D word. I'm not gonna get the Ditto hat. But like, yeah, the Pikachu one, I love the Pikachu one so much. Oh yeah, even the almost did it again. The Ditto T-shirt has the same design, just the stupid little smile.
It's great. But yeah, so apparently this Pokemon Center is soft launching soon, whatever the fuck that means. It's soft launching.
So they are. There's a link, it's not in the Vook story, but there is a link that if you go in and register in the drop down, we sign up for like let me know your deals. Australia and New Zealand are in that now, whereas they weren't previously. So people who sign up to that are going to get notified first for when it does, open its soft launch. But there's still no date for that.
Yeah.
So does this mean that they have a distribution center in the Australia-New Zealand region, or are they just shipping it from the US?
Yeah, so that's what we don't know exactly yet, is where they're shipping it from. That's what Luke said before, is that the shipping could like kill it for us.
Yeah, that's the thing that I'd be most concerned about, because like the hats themselves look like they're like $30, but it'll probably be like $50 US to send them here.
I would love for them to be a Japanese distribution center, because that way there's no reason we can't get the stuff they get, because what Japan gets and what the rest of the world gets is like, US gets like 60% of what Japan gets. So that would be cool. But yeah, I personally think it's going to be out of the UK, just because there's a lot of connection between Australia and the UK. But yeah, we have to wait and see, unfortunately, and that's what I'm saying. Be concerned that a great deal on the website might come undone once you add shipping to it.
Yeah, I was
It's
going to
also
say,
worth
like, anytime companies do this and they do international distro and add international shipping, it just immediately kills my interest for anything like this. Like, it just adds such an insane amount of cost to whatever you want to purchase.
I'm not kidding. I was going to buy a Star Wars mug for Star Wars Day from Disney. It was a Hoth themed one, and it was $24.99. I'm like, yep, that's fine. I'm okay with that. That's US. It's about $34 Australian. I'm okay with that. They wanted $52 for shipping, and I went, no. If I have to pay more in shipping than the price of the item, it's a definite no straight away.
Yeah.
I know how us four could solve this problem for ourselves. We all put in for whatever it is that we want, then we all split the shipping cost, send it to Luke, and then pay Luke the transfer, the parcel fee. So that could be a way around it if you want to be a big old nerd like us about it. Get some friends together, make a mass order, split the cost.
If only there was a community of Nintendo aficionados somewhere on the internet you could join.
Yeah, we should make that a Patreon tier. Pay even more money.
Group orders. Yeah. Alrighty, it's also worth noting that this is actually being handled by the Pokemon Company International rather than Nintendo, which usually covers most of the Pokemon Company's stuff here. So it could suggest an increased presence in Australia for the Pokemon Company, but we'll see how it goes, I guess. I wouldn't get your hopes up about that. Shifting to a company that's a little bit less beloved than the Pokemon Company. Square Enix has announced a sort of big overhaul to its business operations, reportedly getting rid of its business units to shift to a more fluid and a bit more traditional development system. So Square says that it is going to aggressively pursue a multi-platform strategy that includes Nintendo platforms, PlayStation, Xbox, and PCs for its AAA HD titles. So yeah, Final Fantasy's kind of been.
Sorry, what does HD titles mean? What year is it?
Yeah, that's specifically what they use. I don't understand why. Like,
Maybe it just means less ports.
But yeah, yeah. I mean, I've added the AAA there. In their thing, they specifically just say like HD titles. But when they say HD titles, it refers to AAA games. So yeah, Final Fantasy has kind of been in the shitter lately. So Final Fantasy 16 did not sell super well. And Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth also sold less than Final Fantasy 16. And part of the reason for that is likely that it was exclusive to PlayStation. So this is likely just an adjustment to that to try and rewrite that ship. But according to reports from all over the place, there's been a bunch of smaller projects that have been cancelled. The only thing that we know that hasn't been cancelled is the Dragon Quest 12, which we've had confirmed is still in development.
I mean, I wouldn't think they'd kill off Dragon Quest. Like that and Final Fantasy, like they're big IP. I'm not saying there aren't other ones, but
exactly one Dragon Quest game has sold well, and it's Dragon Quest 11. So like, it's not like they have a trend of it.
In Japan,
they
it's
used to sell
right?
really well.
Japan is pretty huge in Japan.
Yeah,
obviously the Japanese market is pretty small compared to the rest of the world. But
it's what makes this funny is Square Enix in 2022 they shipped 24 titles, and they did like 21 titles in 2023. And their strategy has usually been they themselves make a handful of titles, but then external studios make up the bulk of the rest of them, and Square Enix just plaster their name all over it. So I think that's probably likely where we're going to see a little bit of a drop off. They're going to start cutting back on the externally developed games. But I also think too, like Final Fantasy Rebirth especially, the original Final Fantasy on PS1 took what 20 hours to get through. It was a meaty game for its time, but this Rebirth now is what 70 hours to get through, and it's part 2 of 3, and it's like nobody's paying you $100 or $120, whatever it cost here, to get 1/3 of a game that is still years away from being finished. It's like it's I don't know. The whole multi-platform thing aside, when they said, "Oh, we're making this 3 parts instead of 2 now," and it's like, okay, you're really just milking this because you think you can, and it's come back to bite them in the ass. It's literally their own making. Obviously, the deal with PlayStation was announced, long before the game started shipping, but this is a rod of their own back, and now they're essentially crying foul that they're not making the money they thought they would. It's like, but gamers are being picky now. Then they're not willing to shell out $100 on the hope of the final piece making this everything good, but they still have to buy that anyway. So it's their own fault, and I'm not all that upset about it.
Then you have Nintendo. Hey guys, buy this World Championship NES edition.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that they specifically call out in their release is that Foam Stars underperformed. Which was anybody surprised that Foam Stars?
Womp womp.
I forgot that even existed until you literally mentioned it just then.
Foam
also
Stars is a
pretty-
game of if Splatoon had a baby with Ninjala, the bubblegum one, and it came out deformed, that's what Foam Stars is. Nobody plays Ninjala. Well, nobody significantly plays it. There are people that do enjoy it. Nobody wanted Foam Stars. When it was announced, it didn't make a splash. Nobody cared. And then Square Enix just kept pushing it. It's like, guys, no. Why? Nobody cares about this game.
But the thing about Foam Stars as well, though, is that it launched on PlayStation Plus, and it was already not a great game. So enough people played it for free on PlayStation Plus and was like, nah, don't bother. So then no one bought it either.
Yeah,
Which
so
really
here's
helped.
the thing, like, it was on PS Plus, so like a whole bunch of PlayStation players got it for free. But then like it has like region locked matchmaking. And here in Australia right now you cannot play a game of Foam Stars because there is not 8 people playing it in order for you to matchmake into a full match. And that was true a month after launch. Because I know somebody who got the game for like they got a copy for review after it launched a month after, and they couldn't complete the review because they simply could not.
Why would you get a
Actually
review copy
play
a
it.
month after launch?
Square Enix
This
is kind of
one-
weird about that sometimes.
But wasn't this the game that they launched it on PS Plus, but then it didn't hit retail until like a month later? Or is this another game? There's another game that did that. It was a PS Plus launch.
That was it. So it was PS Plus exclusive for the first
Yeah.
month, and then when it actually like came out properly, it was paid. I think it was like $50, which
So
Sounds like
in this
shenanigans to me.
in this Square reshuffle, are they killing the NFT business? Because that'd be great.
they haven't mentioned it. I'm guessing they probably won't because they've spent a lot of money on that stupid bullshit, and yeah, they have actually introduced a whole bunch of new executives, which for Square Enix is like people who greenlight projects and help lead them into completion. So included in that is Naoki Hamaguchi, who directed Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and helped a lot with Final Fantasy VII Remake as well. But notably, there's also Tomoya Asano, who was on Asano team, which is the developer that made Octopath Traveler and all of those kinds of games as well. So I think they're definitely going for an approach that does allow room for smaller games like Octopath, because like why else would you, like, Asano's been working on smaller games for decades now.
Or you mean they've gone for people who have actually shipped more than one game in the past decade?
Yeah. But there's reportedly been like between like Yoshi P and Tetsuya Nomura, who does the Kingdom Hearts stuff, like there's a lot of like animosity apparently between the higher up people at the company, which I guess this is designed to help alleviate, because there's not just like 2 big names at the company anymore. There's a whole bunch more people in positions that can actually make stuff happen. But yeah, I mean, they do say
Yeah.
they're bringing a whole bunch of AAA HD titles to Nintendo platforms, which obviously is not going to be on the Switch itself. But you know,
I mean, we'll see how they deliver these AAA HD games, because they might take a leaf out of Capcom's book and just make them streaming only or something if the hardware can't match the power of something like the PS5 and Xbox Series X.
I mean, like on the one hand, like yeah, that's one way they could do it, and it's Square Enix, so they could very well just go the lazy route. They did that with the Kingdom Hearts games, despite the fact that they can definitely work on the Switch. But like on the other hand, like the Switch 2 is almost certainly going to be significantly more powerful than a Steam Deck, and you can play Remake on a Steam Deck. So if you can play Remake on a Steam Deck, you can probably play Rebirth on a Steam Deck, and at that point, like because of the scalability of UE5, like it should work on Switch 2. But I mean, we'll see how it goes. We won't really know if it's going to work until we have the hardware.
I just so one of the games that has been in development for the longest time is that Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D HD remake. It was like 18 months ago, 2 years ago now, where Yoji, whatever his name is, the Dragon Quest guy, he's like, oh yeah, we're really close to being done. It's like, cool. I think that's one of the things is some of these bigger titles, they've always just dragged their feet because like we want to make the best game ever, and it's like, yeah, but there's a difference between and this is an Xbox problem. There's a difference between being an artist and taking forever because you have the swagger behind you to say you can, and actually getting something out the door. Capcom posted their results last week or the week before, and they've done like 11 years in a row of growth. Like they're literally making more money every year they have for the past 11 years. And you'll notice they're not making single platform titles. Outside of the Switch being like a rare thing, they're not doing games just for one platform. They're making games for everything. Whereas Square Enix is like, no, we're signing deals of exclusivity. And it's like, Square Enix is slightly bigger because they've got their magazine business in Japan and their anime business and all that sort of stuff. So they've got all this extra stuff they can use to make money, whereas Capcom's just games, and Capcom's making money hand over fist because they're not being, isolationist with their development.
But also Capcom has consistent releases, like consistent new releases and sales on their games as well. Like every 2 years there is a new Resident Evil game, and those games land so hard. And like you say, they're multi-platform as well. And then every other week there is a huge Capcom sale on the eShop alone to collect, whatever Mega Man games you've missed, etc., etc. I think the only sort of demographic that's kind of starved for content that comes out of Capcom is probably the Monster Hunter crowd. That's because they have to wait every couple of years just to either get, or every 4 years or so just to get an expansion or a new game. So I think that's really the only sort of the niche product that they have there. But also just looking at Final Fantasy alone, it's kind of interesting that they've kind of written themselves into this problem because, like you say, Luke, everyone saw that Final Fantasy Remake was coming out, right? And it's in the title, remake. People who probably played the original game way back in the day, but weren't following the news as fervently as a lot of us do, probably thought that they were getting the full game as a remake. And then it turns out, no, they have to buy this game 2 more times, over the course of another 10 years before they get the complete package that they actually want. So that's also an added problem to something like this. But also, it's funny to remember that Final Fantasy VII Remake released early in some regions, like Australia, for example, by a matter of weeks because of the pandemic, which caused shipment shortages and everything like that. They actually released in some areas a lot earlier, which probably also pushed a lot of their sales, which forced people to really kind of get in there early. And it was at the end of the life cycle of the PS4 as well, and the Xbox One. So it was kind of like that sort of big, here's the next big AAA game that's going to take advantage of my fantastic old hardware at this point and seeing what it can really do. And now that this game has come out, it's the second in a series, the first game sort of deviated a little bit from the original game as well. I think some people probably didn't like that too. A lot of reviewers and a lot of diehard fans probably appreciate it a lot more. Just doing something different to a game that we've played 100 times at this point. But yeah, I think the fact that you have to buy this game for a second time, it's exclusive to one console, and it's starting to deviate even further from the original game as well, is probably causing a bit of confusion amongst the demographic, or at least, you know, maybe the more casual numbers that would pick this kind of game up. I don't know.
Yeah. But then, you know, that kind of stuff doesn't explain like why Final Fantasy 16 underperformed as
No,
well. And it
You're right. You're entirely right. But also,
Yeah.
like, Final Fantasy, I don't know, like, originally Final Fantasy was very much a fantasy series, right? And then it sort of went full steampunk with and sort of futuristic kind of stuff with 6. And then 7 went full cyberpunk, and then 8 went like ridiculously far into the future and stuff. And then it just kind of like kept flip-flopping between timelines and things, right? And I think that's kind of what people expect from Final Fantasy. And then seeing like a Final Fantasy game that was much more like Game of Thrones centric, like way more of a fantasy game, I think that probably, I don't know, that probably soured a few people. I'm just
Yeah,
speculating this on basically, you know, just me not knowing anything really, but looking at kind of where the series has gone and what even excites me. Like, I'm keen to play 16. I just still haven't done it yet. I bought the damn game. It's been installed on my PlayStation. I just haven't played it yet. And that's also partly because I haven't been living at home for the last, 8 months or so. But yeah, I do see that one is a bit of an outlier because it is vastly different from many Final Fantasies that have come before it, and even now, the ones we're getting right now with 7 Rebirth.
Yeah, I mean, 16 was definitely made for like a Western audience first, which like, you know, is good if you're appealing to a Western audience. But like, part of the reason that a lot of people like Final Fantasy is that it is sort of that very, you know,
It's a JRPG
culturally
series.
Japanese.
It needs
Yeah,
to
it's a
stick,
JRPG
yeah.
series, right? Like,
Yeah, and
what
that's the thing,
separates
right?
Final Fantasy 16 from like any other Western developed action RPG? And like, there's not a whole lot, despite the fact like it's like, you know, there are chocobos in it, and the spells are the names of.
Well, the matter of choice is what really defines Western RPGs from Japanese RPGs, right? Like, everything's a lot more open world. Character role playing is so much more is like drastically different. Your choices matter, quote unquote, in the world and how you finish the game and relationships with characters and things. I think that's kind of the big thing that sets it apart. And like, from what I understand, like 16 doesn't really do that at all.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, I don't think, you know, anybody really has all the answers for why these games underperformed.
I think honestly, one of the biggest reasons it underperformed is it was console exclusive to a console that at the time maybe had 45 million. And if every single person who owned a PS5 bought the game, then sure. But at best, a game like a series like Final Fantasy, Dragon Age, or any big RPG, Dragon's Dogma, they're only going to get, 20% of a console's install base to buy it. So the moment you make it a single platform and then it's a niche genre, you're losing people, out the gate.
Also, let's not forget that the other big fantasy RPG that came out at the exact same, or almost the exact same time, was Baldur's Gate 3, and that was multi-platform eventually.
Was
So
PC
people
and PS5 at launch, so
yeah, so people were already getting their like fattening RPG fix from that.
Yeah. All right, moving on to a dumb story. Nintendo has announced that starting from next month, you'll no longer be able to share screenshots from the Switch directly to Twitter or X if you're one of the most insufferable people on the planet. So the most likely reason is for the API costs, which ranges anywhere from $40,000 a month up to $250,000 a month, or more if you've got a corporate agreement with Twitter. Twitter, in a statement, tried to say that it had worked together with Nintendo in this process, but realistically, Nintendo just shut up shop without much input from Elon Musk and Twitter, because like, why would they pay for something that they didn't have to pay for before? Like, it's costing them, $250,000 every single month. Like, that's not worth it to have people be able to share the stuff. Like, just share stuff directly to Twitter.
Honestly, how many users were actually posting direct to Twitter from their Switch these days?
I mean,
these days,
honestly,
not so much.
I've done it like twice in the entire time it's been available.
I've only ever done it to get my screenshots off my console.
Yeah, same.
That's the only reason
literally
I've
the reason I
ever
did it.
done it.
And then I delete the tweets.
Totally.
So the only reason I ever did it was for testing purposes, but generally, once they put that USB connection in, that's how I got my photos off the Switch.
Yeah, so
Just
that's the thing. Like,
plug it
so,
into my
like, you can
computer.
just plug it into your computer now and get the screenshots off that way. So
I mean, it wasn't an unusual feature to have. Like every platform in
Oh, no.
existence on any device
Mm.
had social integration in it. So like, and I think you could also post to Facebook for a bit, right?
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
even
They
a
took
share
that away
button
already.
on your PlayStation and Xbox did something similar. So
I think
It's
it's
not an
just
unusual
hilarious
thing.
that like all this stuff is happening, and this really shows just how little value social media brings to these consoles. Like,
Well, I think
no
more so
one
with-
cares.
I think more so with Twitter now. Like
Yeah,
there's just no
definitely more so
value
with
in
Twitter.
using Twitter as a platform to share
But I think
mean-
thoughts.
I think also like PlayStation and Xbox and somewhat Nintendo have made it a lot easier to get your screenshots off your console and videos and stuff. Like with PlayStation and Xbox, it just syncs up to your app and it do shit. It's fucking glorious. Nintendo's almost there, hopefully with Switch 2. But yeah, it's getting close.
It'll be part of your Nintendo subscription.
Almost certainly.
I'd be okay with that. It wouldn't bother me if it was part of that. I just think it's hilarious that Twitter's like, oh, we tried to work with them. It's like, you tried to work with them on shutting down the service. That's what you're claiming at the
Yeah.
moment. Like that's you don't really want to claim you're helping a company get away from you. But this is Monkey's brain, Monkey's service. So who the hell?
I'm
knows
sure
what
they
they're
fired their
trying to say.
Nintendo Twitter consultant like back on the first day of firing
Oh,
people.
for sure.
Probably had
But
to carry
like,
that
I think it
kitchen
goes
sink back
just,
out.
like how much like Elon has just destroyed Twitter as a platform. And so like, 10 years ago, all of these like, platform makers like Nintendo and Sony and Microsoft, they put buttons like specifically on their controllers so that you could easily share, take a screenshot and share that screenshot. Like, and Twitter was the big reason for that, right? Like being able to quickly share to Twitter was like the reason that we had a share button on the PlayStation. Like it was in the announcement that you could share it to Twitter. And like the exact same thing happened with the Switch and Xbox when they, switched over to the Series. And now just like it's such a non-factor that every single gaming company has dropped it now. Like you can't share directly to Twitter on any of them anymore. Which like, I don't know. Just
I
like
think it's because the way we share media has changed so drastically now, right? Like it's not about photos or screenshots anymore. It is about videos and things, and like a lot of people get their video fixed from TikTok and Instagram now. And if we haven't got integration for anything like that, then probably not worth.
Also,
To a degree, for sure.
People
But
are just more savvy when it comes to sharing that stuff as well. Like people aren't
True.
sharing a unedited screenshot or unedited video. Like they're doing a voiceover, they like editing the clip or whatever it is, right? So a lot of that stuff is just getting that content off the console and then doing something with it. Which these consoles don't really let you do.
That's true.
something from Twitter last year about how they would own pictures you upload or something, or they could scan them for AI learning or something like that?
No doubt in my
almost
mind.
I mean, I'm sure that's been in everyone's terms of service since the words AI became normal.
I just remember one of the platforms. I don't know if it was Twitter specifically, it could have been TikTok or something, but I remember one of them had it, and people just lost their minds. You know, that the stuff they were sharing would then be used to train bots. Pretty sure it was Twitter. It sounds like a Twitter
I'm
thing.
pretty sure. Yeah, it very much sounds like a Twitter thing.
And also, notice how none of us are calling it by that stupid name. We're all saying Twitter.
No, because the only people who call it X are like the most insufferable people on the planet. Like,
And they generally have that
So-
little blue B next to their name on the actual service.
I saw that they announced the other day, that Elon was announcing that everything had just finally transitioned to that new dumb name. I'm like, okay. Congratulations on
so-
like killing one of the most synonymous words in social media.
Yeah, that's a
Real
funny way
big
to
brain energy here.
that's a funny way to spell Twitter.
I will say
I mean,
I
the funny-
have an extension on my computer that it doesn't replace the URL, but anytime it just says x.com, it just replaces it with twitter.com, so I don't see it. And I'm very, very happy with that extension. And the only reason I have Twitter these days is because of what I do. Otherwise, I don't care.
This whole thing, like, Elon seems like the type of guy that would let the domain license lapse and someone would pick it up, like twitter.com, and then take it over.
Yeah.
And I really hope that happens.
I wonder if eventually you go to like twitter.com and then a GoDaddy page comes up and going, oh, this URL is available.
But no, the funny
haven't
thing
figured out
about
how to
like the
done
switch
buying it.
over to X.com is that like it broke a bunch of stuff. Like the first like 4 or 5 hours in Australia, if you were trying to access it from the web, you just couldn't. It was just broken because they hadn't configured the Australian web servers to work with that, which is very funny. But even now, if you have strict tracking prevention on your browser, specifically in Firefox, it just doesn't work. You can't access the website,
Really?
which feels like a GDPR violation to me.
Ollie, I've just discovered because I use the publish function for Twitter
Oh.
posts when I'm embedding them. That's still publish.twitter.com.
Of course, it looks like they've actually fixed the tracking prevention thing.
Yeah, I was about to say it's working
Bummer.
for me.
But yeah,
Like,
up until,
damn it.
yesterday.
And the embed code still says class Twitter-tweet.
Yeah.
Fuck you, England.
You showed
It's
a
funny
look.
because like obviously like I work in games media and like have to embed tweets and stuff all the time, and like all of our like CMSs like don't allow you to embed an X.com tweet. It's like you have to change it to say Twitter.com, and I don't think that's ever going to change. So
I mean,
Well,
Discord generally.
Sorry. Go.
I said Discord is rare. Sometimes you'll put twitter.com, it'll go, here you go. And then sometimes it goes, I have no idea what that is. So you have to modify the URL to like fxtwitter.com or something, or fxtwitter.com before it'll actually understand what you're trying to share.
Sorry, I just haven't been on Twitter in like a billion years, so it was catching up on the news from the past year and a half. Someone has posted that Winamp is releasing its source code in September, which is just totally sick.
Winamp. Wow, really kicks the llama's ass.
I was waiting for someone to say it. I'm like, will they say it in the deep bassy voice, or will they just say it?
Oh,
yeah,
man.
well, yeah, it's going entirely open source on September 24th, 2020.
I remember I used to live with a dude like 12 years ago when I first moved out of home, and like Spotify was just becoming a thing, and I had subscribed to Spotify. I'm like, man, Spotify's amazing. And then for a whole year, like I slowly saw everyone transitioning to Spotify and streaming and things, except for my housemate who just had like thousands of songs consistently playing on Winamp on his PC. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? His background was also like naked chicks, like constantly in rotation. So
I mean, I didn't use
that type of
I didn't use streaming music for a long time either. Like for a very, very long time, I would
Yeah.
buy CDs and rip them and put them in my library. I still have never bought a digital song in my life.
I've bought one digital album, and it was a Super Soul Bros album where they did like a live album of Sonic the Hedgehog arrangements. It was really good.
Yeah. See, I went to uni with somebody whose entire job used to be making Winamp skins. Apparently, he
Was it a
made
job?
Crazy.
Yeah, that was his job was making Winamp skins, and
That's so
yeah,
funny.
he like absolutely hated Spotify because it had put him out of a job. So yeah.
Right back.
Anyway,
Might
we've
have a new
gotten-
job soon.
Well, yeah, maybe. We've gotten wildly off topic.
No, not us.
What's new?
Not here.
So yeah, our last news story of the episode. Shocking absolutely nobody. Nintendo has revealed that the successor to the Nintendo Switch will be officially announced during this financial year, which ends on March 31st, 2025. There'll also be a June Nintendo Direct, which is not a surprise because there always is one, but the Switch 2 will not be in it, which kind of suggests it'll be after June when it gets announced. Or Nintendo could just be completely lying and it will be in it, because Nintendo does that all the time too.
They literally could do a tweet an hour after the direct.
Yeah.
So they're not lying. It's announced at the same time. I'm still crossing fingers that it's announced for Nintendo Live Sydney. That's what I think they're doing it. I think it has to be done. Just because
I
I
think
know
it'll
Ollie's like,
probably
I won't be there, and then they'll
I-
announce it and be like, damn it, I've got to go.
Genuinely be amazed if they announce it this year.
Yeah,
Like I feel like why would you announce it when you have holiday to come up? Like
I feel like they'll probably do something similar with what they did with the Switch, right? Like we went forever not hearing anything. We're like, when's this thing gonna come out? What's gonna happen? And then like a week beforehand, they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna unveil the thing like on this day via a video, and then it just like lit the whole internet on fire.
Yeah. I mean, I think it'll probably be very similar to how the Switch one came about, which is that in September they said they kind of like revealed it a little bit, like they had that initial trailer which everybody kind of loved, and then in December they like actually gave the details and like, you know, all of that kind of stuff for a March launch. And I think that's likely to happen here as well. I think March is probably what we're looking at, in part just because it like having it earlier in the year means stock will have normalized by the time the holiday season comes out, but also because it gives a pretty big boost to the end of financial year sales for Nintendo. So it looks really good if they have like 20 million consoles sold in, you know, the
10
last
days.
month of the in 10 days. So I think March is probably where it's going to be. It's just it'll definitely be towards the end of the year when it gets announced. Like we're talking September, October, November.
20 million is a lofty goal in a month, I think.
I mean, if they can have the stock for it,
I love that Nintendo.
That'd be amazing.
I love that Nintendo went about acknowledging a successor in the most Nintendo like ruined climax way ever. How they did it with like the NX as well. It was like, oh yes, you know, we're partnering up with DNA to provide services for our Nintendo successor called the NX, all this kind of stuff. It's just like, oh, so you guys are actually confirming you're making a new console? It's just like it's such a blasé corporate business way to do it.
Yeah.
So funny.
I mean, in this one, it was like just a tweet from Furukawa, which is, you know,
which already was just like the most like, I don't know, just such a bland way to say it. Like it's so funny.
Well, there was so there's an Atlas Twitter user. I say Atlas Twitter. He's a leaker known for getting everything right about Atlas games, so Persona, Shin Megami Tensei, all that sort of stuff. And he put out during the week that there's a lot of talk internally about it being called New Switch and Switch 2. Like, I don't think they're calling it New Switch. New Switch would be a horrible name.
Let's
Oh my
not do that.
I think I hope they've learned their lesson on this.
From the 10
That's
times the 10 times they've tried to use new as to sell a product.
God damn.
But
There's no
they did it
better
with
way
the
to date
new,
your product upon release than to call it
New 3DS didn't do so well. New Super Mario Brothers was new only once, but they kept recycling. But again, I'm like, yeah, they won't do that again. But then it's Nintendo, and they always do something that we know shouldn't be done, and they go with it anyway. So
I think, you know, Furukawa is a very business forward person, so I think like Nintendo Switch 2 is like the most likely, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something a little bit more abstract like Nintendo Switch Next, which is something that
recycling that NX brand.
Yeah, exactly. So like something like that, I don't think is impossible.
No.
But
as long as they do not follow the Xbox bullshit naming system that they've invented,
they should call it the Nintendo Switch 360. That's what they should call it.
because that
see
wouldn't
if
confuse
Microsoft
people in the
sues.
slightest.
No, it's got to be the Super Switch, you guys. What are you talking about? If it is not the Super Switch, I will riot silently and in
not
my
gonna be-
seat.
They're never going to name it something that can be shortened to SS. Never
Why
going to
would-
happen. With Japan's history, nah. They very
I
much
think
avoid
we're
that
over
kind
that.
of thing.
Ollie, it's old hat. That's in the past. We're past that.
Actually, Ollie, you got to remember in Japan they do NS for Nintendo Switch, so it would be SNS if they did it Super Switch, and
So not gonna
SNS stands for
be
Social Network in Japan.
Yeah.
So every social network is branded under SNS, so that wouldn't. Go
Although
down.
they have, fucked off Twitter, so maybe they can just be like, well, this is the new SNS. Get used to it.
Also,
Yeah, but they use line a lot.
I mean,
That's true.
I feel like Switch 64 is definitely up there with the titles that they could use because it's definitely running a 64-bit processor, so they need to highlight that.
Yeah. Either way, within 10 months we will have seen what it is. So
unless I
fun.
die. Unless we all die.
yeah.
That's
true.
that's always that's always my go-to.
Left field so hard.
That's always my go-to. If something's far in the future in terms of gaming, it's like, oh, what if I die and I never see it?
I mean, you say never say never,
the
but then
most-
Yeah.
That's the most millennial fucking thought train that I've heard. Jesus Christ.
Well, like literally, we're not gonna play the third like Final Fantasy VII remake, rebirth, whatever, like for another 5 years. Like, I literally could die.
my god, that's amazing.
If you take anything away from this episode, it's that you could die at any time, so don't hold
Mm.
anything.
That's-
Don't hold
that-
excitement. You know,
That's
there's
this
no need.
episode's subtitle. We could die.
Yeah.
Why you don't pre-order games? You could have it paid off and never actually get to play it.
Yeah, that's what a waste of money.
Exactly. Spend
Oh,
your money
talking
now.
My friend did this with Team Fortress
Pre-ordered the game
2.
and died.
No, Team Fortress 2, like the physical version at like some local game store that used to be near our high school, and like the store like just shut down, and like it was like, oh, the game's still coming out, and then it didn't obviously come out for like another 10 years. It was just so beautiful.
That's great. Oh,
Alrighty. Well, let's just jump straight to Nintendo 20 questions, which we'll have to keep a bit of a short one because Angelo is on a time limit, but
I gotta
I
bounce.
think we can get through it as long as he hasn't picked a particularly hard one.
Don't blame me, mate. Blame old mate Darren from the Discord. Dazza. D-man.
Daz.
I'm good to go.
Okay.
Michael,
All right, I
you
guess
wanna-
we'll start with the question that you're gonna hate. Was this game
Uh,
released on or after January 1st, 2010?
2010. No.
Okay.
Alright, was this game released in the North? Can we say
No.
that? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine. That's a understandable era.
I will never change how I phrase that question. I do not give a shit about you, Angelo.
Okay, so released before 2000. Was this game released on a Nintendo home console?
Yes.
Okay. So NES 64.
Yeah.
Virtual Boy?
Yeah, what? Just nobody
Doesn't
ever
require
picked
it-
Virtual Boy.
Doesn't require a TV, nor does it support TV, so technically a handheld.
Or like, what about VR? Is VR handheld? I'd say that's headheld.
It doesn't require a TV.
Alright, we're
so
adding a
no,
third
handheld.
category.
Was this game released in the 90s? It's just locked down there.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
He asks,
That's
rephrasing the
solid.
question.
I mean, I just wanted to have brevity to the situation, considering your time restraints.
That's
So I'm
fine.
going to continue
Alright.
talking about me explaining it.
Was this game released for the Nintendo 64?
Yes.
All right, that cuts down the library quite a bit.
That's honestly the best one that it could have been.
I mean, the next simple question is: was this game published by Nintendo?
Published? No.
Cool, because that knocks out like 80% of the 64's library.
Was this game developed in Japan?
Let me just quickly check on that one. No.
Alrighty. I'm gonna go with the genre. Is this a racing game?
No.
Is this a licensed game?
Yes.
Oh, licensed 64.
Because I was thinking something maybe like Turok or Toy Story.
Toy Story is a good shout because didn't Traveler's Tales do a Toy Story 2 game?
Yeah. This is before their Lego addiction.
Yeah.
Which we've all been there. Lego addictions are hard to shake. Okay. Is this game based off a movie?
No.
Okay.
Oh, that's 10 down.
So it could be
Is-
something. Go
Go.
ahead.
Okay.
Uh,
Is this game a is this game a platformer?
No.
Okay.
Does this game take place from the first person perspective?
No.
Alright, so that knocks out Turoks, it knocks out things like Armor Marines, Shadow Man.
Does this game have combat?
Yes.
We
before that one, I was thinking it could be Tony Hawk.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to kind of get out of the way. Tony Hawk.
Well, it knocks out a few of the sports games as well, because there were a few sports games on
Combat.
64.
Combat third-person licensed game.
Is there a Conan the Barbarian game on 64? Doesn't ring a bell.
This isn't Superman 64, is it?
Was this game? Is this game considered one of the worst games of all time?
Interesting pause.
I'm just checking the reviews.
I mean, I think, okay, when he says all time, I think it needs to be infamous, that you can't just be like, it was generally reviewed poorly.
It was, yeah, okay. So, in the way that you're thinking, no.
Okay.
I will say that it has mixed reviews. Some
Okay.
have reviewed it really poorly. Others think it's fine/good.
Okay, so it's probably not the N64 Spider-Man game, because that was quite good.
I'm really struggling to think of, like, licensed 64 games.
I could think of a few, but I'm like, no, but it's got that doesn't have combat. This does have combat.
Also, when you eventually come after me with your pitchforks and torches, just remember
Okay.
Darren chose this one.
Okay, interesting.
yeah, but we have more immediate access to you than Darren.
That's
so,
very true. That's very true.
Is
It's
there
not
any
based off
chance
a
that we will
movie.
be able to get this game?
I mean,
That's not a
potentially.
question.
I
Okay,
have
that
faith.
wasn't a question.
I have faith. No, that wasn't a question. That's fine.
It's not based off a movie too, so it means something like a comic book license, or like a TV show license. But I don't know. Xena, Warrior Princess.
Yeah, or like something like Hot Wheels, you know.
Yeah, but it's not a racing game.
I know. I'm just saying something like that.
Oh.
Like a
Oh, yeah, yeah.
TMNT, which could be, you know.
Was this game? Oh, I can't think of a good way to say that question.
Haven't quite got genre. You know it's a licensed game, so you haven't locked down what the license might be.
It's not based on a movie, though.
Yeah.
What could it be based on? A TV show or...
You
TV show
haven't-
or comics are
you haven't
really
got
the only
the-
things.
yeah.
You haven't got the region it was developed in. You know where it's not developed. Sometimes that helps
Right.
you.
This is like an offshoot of the meta question, but have we mentioned the license that it's based on?
Yes.
Okay. That is like
Oh.
Spider-Man, TMNT,
It's Xena.
maybe something else. Xena.
Imagine if
Is
it's
that-
Xena. Holy shit,
That's an
what a left field
obscure
guess.
game.
There's not more than one Superman game, is there? There's not.
Can you imagine?
No.
I feel like we would have
Is
heard
this
about
game
it
based
better.
off a comic series?
No.
Because that knocks out any Superman potentials, Spider-Man, and Turtles.
And like, you know, Batman and that kind of stuff as well.
Yes.
Doesn't knock out
mean-
like
I mean, unless the game is specifically based on a TV version variant of that. Is that I don't know if that I don't know how picky you're being, Angelo, here.
Well, the Xena TV show was spun off of the Hercules, and that was an original adaptation of the mythology, so it wasn't based off anything. It could also be like there was a Donald Duck game and a Taz game, both on
yeah,
64.
that's what I was thinking.
Did we mention Looney Tunes?
No, so it can't be that.
Oh yeah,
I think it
I forgot about that
has to
question.
be Xena. Like, what else have we mentioned?
Yeah, this is the
Uh,
problem with the meta question. It relies on you remembering what you've talked about.
I was just thinking.
Well, that's the thing. So everything that we've mentioned falls under like the comic book license or the movie license, and we know it's not either of those. We know it's not a sports game.
Is it based on a TV show?
Yes.
Okay, well, there you go.
It's got to be Xena then.
Feel it has
Is there
to be.
something we can narrow down Xena with?
No, because I know the box art. I can see the box art in my head, but I've never played the game, so I couldn't tell you anything about the game itself.
We can ask if the TV show this is based on is a spin-off.
Yeah.
Sure. I feel like you could also just ask if the TV show is Xena.
Yeah, but I feel like asking. I feel like the amount that sort of counts as a guess.
No, go ahead, ask.
All right, is this the TV show this is based on a spin-off of another TV show? Oh god. Okay, the fact that he doesn't know means we are on the or he's faking it. One of the two. I can't tell.
Yes, it is.
And just make sure there was no other spin-off TV shows that got a game at that same time.
There probably is.
We've got.
But-
I mean,
but we-
again, we
when we
haven't
mentioned
mentioned
it-
that many.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it has to be
No, we-
Xena.
That's wild that you just pulled Xena out of your ass and this is gonna be Xena.
Um,
And it wasn't even in my head. I was just like, okay, what about it has to be this, and I'm like TV show Xena. Like I wasn't even consciously thinking of it. It just popped into my head. I say we ask it. If we don't get it, we don't get it.
Yeah, Lucy
With
Lawless
one
will
question
be
and a
proud
guess,
if we get
so-
this.
Yeah.
All right, you said it. You guess it.
All right. Is this? Oh god, what's it called? Is it Xena 64 or Xena the Warrior
No, just
Princess?
say Xena Warrior Princess, the game. That's-
Is this Xena Warrior Princess for Nintendo 64?
Okay. So you're asking on your 18th question. Developed by Sapphire, published by Titus Interactive, releasing in North America on December 6, 1999, and in PAL regions on December 17, 1999. It is a fighting single-player action game for the Nintendo 64 based on the TV show license Xena Warrior Princess called
Oh,
Xena Warrior
nice.
Princess: The
That's
Talisman of Fate.
I'm amazed we got that. That is such a left field like game. And I think with Luke randomly just mentioning it and Ollie saying the meta question pretty early, that saved us.
yeah. If
I
I
was-
hadn't asked that question, I think it would have been like if the question to the answer to that had been no, we would have been fucked.
Like, check the
Yeah,
tape. Like,
totally.
seconds before Luke just threw the game out there, I said, like, I have faith that you guys can get this one. And then, bam, he just, in a serendipitous moment, just pulled it out.
Yeah.
I'm just grateful we didn't like ask if it was like published by Titus because they also did Superman 64.
Yeah.
If we had gone down that road, he could have been really mean and made it Superman 64.
Yeah. No, I do love the desperate self-doubt every time that I in myself as well, go through whenever we get to like question like 16, 17, 18. There's just that
Yeah.
dreadful self-doubt. We're like, oh god, I think we have it, but like maybe it's wrong. Maybe we've gone completely the wrong direction here.
100%.
I will say I did. I was going to think when Ollie was thinking Superman 64. I was thinking of asking you like, is it in the video about recompiled Nintendo 64 games? Because Superman 64 was in that video, and I was like, that would be like an obscure way of finding out.
I feel like having it be an N64 game like lessened the impact of that doubt. If it was like a NES game or like a SNES game where the library is like a bajillion games long, that would have been like way worse. But the N64 library is so small.
And it was funny when someone asked like if this was like a dreadfully bad game or whatever. Like I was looking at the review scores on Wikipedia here, and it's got like IGN 7.4 out of 10, Hyper 77, GameSpot 2.8 out of 10, GameFan 77, Game Informer 3.5 out of 10. So just like
You can clearly
peaks
find
and
the
valleys.
Xena lovers in that list.
yeah, for sure, just peaks and valleys.
Also, just want to point out, Xena is the vastly superior show. Hercules sucks.
Oh, absolutely. And Lucy Lawless is the vastly superior human. Kevin
Totally.
Sorbo sucks.
I
was going to ask
did
as
chuckle.
one of my questions. Sorry, I was going to ask because we still had another question, but we moved on too quickly. I was going to ask if the lead character of the game has ever appeared in The Simpsons, because Xena was in The
That's
Simpsons.
a good one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
That's
She
probably a meta
flies in
question
that.
with how many people have guest starred in The Simpsons. I find it hilarious that I'm playing through God of War 3 on stream and Kevin Sorbo voices Hercules in that game.
Ugh.
And you just get to beat the crap out of him, and it's like such a cathartic
Oh,
thing. To do.
great.
Yeah.
Like literally, you punch his skull in.
Dude, Kevin
So-
Sorbo sucks so bad now. He is an absolute trash human, which sucks because like Hercules was actually an alright show, and like the character that he portrayed was kind of a wholesome, like gentle type of dude, from what I remember at least. And he is just an absolute like trash fire of a human.
Yeah.
Good lord.
He sure is.
What a bad dude.
I mean, I clicked onto his
Yeah, I know,
onto
right?
his Twitter page, and it was just terrible
Absolute
from
cut
top
of a
to
man.
bottom.
His son is on TikTok, and every once in a while, like one of his TikToks pops up in my stream, and it's him like talking to his dad about some wildly conservative piece of shit topic, and I'm like, ugh, get away.
Yeah. But Xena's great.
Yeah.
Lucy Lawless,
Xena's good.
also great.
Yeah, hard agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, that
Good
about
work,
wraps up. That about wraps up this episode of the Vookcast. Be sure to visit the site www.vooks.net for all your internet news, reviews, and everything in between. To keep up to date, follow us out on Twitter, just at vooks.net, which is all spelled out, or jumping over to our Discord at bit.ly/vooksdiscord. You can find all of our social information and links for all the stories covered in this episode in the episode notes on whatever platform you're listening to. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you in the next show.
I will say before we sign off, we're also on Threads and Blue Sky and what was the other one? Mastodon. So if Twitter's not your thing anymore, we're elsewhere as well.
Yeah. But why would you when you could go onto x.com and chat up Kevin Sorbo?
I mean, yeah, that's
Bye,
topic for
everyone.
another episode.
It's a hard cut at the end of that show.